Happy Thanksgiving. PK52, the Saturday morning meeting, Thanksgiving edition. Who has influenced your life? What has changed you? Why do you have the drive you have? Who are you thankful for? Should you pick the phone up? Should you call somebody 20 years in your past? Should you text somebody? Should you open an email? Should you drive to somebody's house if you still live in the same town? Should you reflect back on the people that molded your life? I think in this time, whether it's a family member or somebody in your past that's influenced you to become the person you have, it's time to give thanks. I think about the beginning of America when the colonial and the Indians got together. It was a necessity because they were thankful for the food that they could gather to survive. It seems like there are things in our life that drive us that change us forever. In my past, one side of my grandparents had a farm. It was a dryland, non-irrigated cotton farm in West Texas, very dusty West Texas. It's also a ranch, had livestock. I spent a lot of my youth there with my grandmother, getting up before the sunrise, going down milking the cows, learn how to milk, that's a skill that you have later in life. Learn how to churn butter, fed the animals, but she did this every single day. There wasn't a day off. If it was freezing and she had to go bust the ice off the ponds so the cattle could drink, she had to do that. There was nobody else to do it. If it was 110 degrees, she had to go take care of the animals. Every day she had to do this. She didn't think anything about it. Then she tended her garden. Then she prepared the food and did everything over and over again. That kind of work ethic was the foundation of my life. I saw what had to be done, and you couldn't move it on to somebody else or ask somebody else to do it. It was your responsibility. So that's Mama B, and that was an influencer when I was 10 years old. As I moved into high school is a giant influencer on everybody's life. Some people finish their school with high school. Some people go on. I had a football coach in high school. His name was Coach Jim Acree. I got very fortunate to live in a town where football was king. I played for Midland Lee. If you watch the movie Friday Night Lights, Midland Lee, Odessa Permian, they made a big movie about it, and that was after that I've graduated, but it was the same ideology about football in West Texas. Coach Acree would take you to the end of your ability. I mean, you were done. If anybody's ever been there, if you've been in the military before and you're in basic and they ask you to do something in your mind, you're going, I'm done. There's nothing left. Every day at practice, he would take you to the point where you're done. And then his famous statement was, run it again, boys. Run it again, boys. He finished his career at Corsicana. There's a statue in the city center of Jim Acree, and down at the bottom it says, run it again, boys. And I ran it again so many times when I didn't think I could run it again. So he taught me that no matter how tired you are, that there's always one more. Moving on from that, my grandfather. So I got really lucky. I was in the oil belt when the oil business was gigantically booming. I got an opportunity before my senior year in high school to go to work for Texaco during a summer internship. Instead of making like $2 an hour, it was a giant pay. They paid us the exact same money they paid the people that worked where I worked. So it was a huge income job. My grandfather set me down. My grandfather started in the oil and gas industry back before there was giant equipment. They did everything by hand. He was a true oil man. Never really gave me a lot of direction in life. He was always there for me. He set me down one day and said, you got a big opportunity here. He goes, when they ask you for 100%, give 125. He goes, never let somebody dismiss you because you didn't give them what they expected and more. And that's all he said. He turned around and walked off. That was it. I still try to hold that philosophy today. If I'm asked to do something, I want to do it better than I was asked to do it. Don't need the rewards. Just that's what Big Bill, my grandfather, told me. So Mama B and Big Bill, my big influencers and grandparents. So from there, I played some college baseball. I played 4 years of college baseball, gang. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know how your life went, but I went from the most strict coach of all time, in my opinion, to no coaches at all. So I played at 2 different colleges, and we went to practice every day. We played games. Didn't matter if you won or lost. We never talked about the championship. I played D1 college baseball where 2 teams in my division were number 1 and number 3 in the nation, and there was never any discussion that we were going to try to rival these people. We were trying to win the national championship. It was unbelievable, the lack of leadership in those 4 years. Now, I enjoyed playing baseball, and it paid for college, but I really missed the Jim Acrees of the world and my grandfather, Big Bill of the world, saying this is what you have to do to achieve the next level. There was no aspiration of next level for those 4 years. After I got out of college, I got involved in Gold's Gym. Had a couple of Gold's Gym in Austin, Texas. If you've ever been to Austin back in the days, that was in the 80s. There wasn't any place better on earth than Austin, Texas in the 1980s, gang. Just trust me on this. It was heaven on earth. And I was in the gym business, and I, it was great. I was single in the gym business, spandex everywhere. Even the women were wearing spandex. The fitness craze was going on. I met Arnold Schwarzenegger. I met Lou Ferrigno. I met Frank Zane. I met Franco Columbo, Lee Labrada. I mean, so all of the big names, while I was involved in that. As I got into the latter part of my fitness career, I didn't know it was about to be over. But I met a man who was a mega car dealer, big influencer in the car business, dealer council president, Big John Spear. And we became friends. And he says, you ought to come sell cars for me. And I thought, man, go to the gym every day, work out around the most fit people on earth, the beautiful people of the world, right? Or go sell cars for a living. John, I'm not really, thank you though. And so lo and behold, the gym business went away from me, long story. And I went to work at a Toyota store. He had just bought the Toyota store. Gang, I had never sat in a Toyota before. I'd never been around a Toyota, never driven a Toyota, didn't know anything about Toyota. It was a very short window of time before I realized this was a car company that overbuilt their cars based upon the price, and every time something came out, it was better. 30 plus years later, I'm still working for Toyota, so obviously that was a good introduction and a good placement. I'm going to tell you a quick story about John. So back in the 80s, and I wish everybody could have sold cars for Toyota in the 80s. They took care of the salespeople like you don't even understand. They sent us videos out from the president of Toyota encouraging us and thanking us for what we did. It was amazing. It's amazing. There was walk-around championships. You win your dealership level, then you went to the district championship. Then you win your region. My region was 5 states: Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, or Mississippi. I was in this little area of Texas, and that was my whole influence. I didn't even know the other 4 states. I was just like right there. That's all I knew. But I sold cars there. So I entered the walk-around championship, and I ended up winning my dealer. I went to district. Won the regionals. So now I'm representing Gulf states, and I'm going to go to San Francisco to the national walk-around championship. So it was amazing. When you went to that first Toyota trip, you didn't know what to expect. We went to Napa. We had all kinds of dinners. They had the dragons dancing in the street. And Courtney was with me, and we're going like, unbelievable. So we met a couple while we're on that trip. Let me tell you a story before I went. So one day, John walks in, my dealer, and he goes, hey, I'm going to Lubbock today. You need to go with me. And I said, John, I can't go today. I got 3 deliveries. He said, your cars will be delivered. We're going to Lubbock today. So he picked me up late in the evening, and we start driving to Lubbock. It's getting dark. It's a long way from Abilene to Lubbock. And we get there, and we pull up in front of this giant independent clothing store. And he goes, wow. So what I was going to do is I was going to bring you here and buy you a full set of clothes to represent us at the national championship. But I guess I should have called and found out what time they closed. Well, he goes, we'll head back. All of a sudden, the lights go on in this store. The name of the store was Maloof's. Mr. Maloof walks out. John and Mr. Maloof hugged each other, and he goes, I guess you're the guy we're suiting up. I go, yes, sir, I guess so. Walked in, double-breasted suit, Burberry, shoes, ties, shirt, everything. Blew me away. John says, when you represent us at the national championship, I want you to look better than anybody else. I mean, out of the blue, that's an influencer in my life. From there, I went to the walk-around championship, and I got to meet a really amazing guy. His name was Adam Aarons and his wife, Lisa. We kind of paired up. They liked me. They fell in love with my wife, and so we did a lot of the events together. 2 weeks after I got back home, I got a call from Adam. He goes, hey, I talked to you about Southeast Toyota. We are looking to hire a regional training manager. We'd like you to come interview for the job. So I interviewed for the job. Long story short, a lot of interviewees. I ended up getting the job, and I got to work for the best car man in the history of the world. There will never be a better, Mr. Jim Moran. Jim Moran was, I would ask all of you, if you want to be thankful and read something and see how an influencer is, go on Amazon. Hopefully you can buy the book on Amazon. It's called Jim Moran, The Courtesy Man. It's a man in Chicago with nothing, started with nothing, and built an empire with Toyota, multi-billion-dollar empire. I got to work with this man, and I'll tell you what, He was so influential in my life. I have 4 sons. My last son was born during my time with Southeast Toyota. Jim Moran's companies, his whole company umbrella was JM Enterprises. My 4th boy, his first 2 letters are capital J, capital M. His name is J. Michael. I named him after Jim Moran. Not many people know that. That man influenced my life like you don't even understand. Spent 3 years working with Jim Moran, learning the big giant scope of the automotive business. And then I met another giant dealer influencer. His name was Scott Clark. Scott said, Casey, you're pretty good at this training thing. Why don't you jump over here and we'll open a training company? So I left Southeast Toyota and independently opened a training company with Scott Clark in 1993. There comes a time in your life where you look at all your influencers and then you have to grow up. Then you have to actually become an adult and then you turn around and you influence other people. So in the last 28 years that I've worked for Toyota, running dealerships and doing training, there's been a lot of people that have influenced me, but at this point in time, you become partners. They expect something from you, you expect something from them, and you partner up. But I guess the biggest opportunity during the time of thanks is stop for a second, think about the people that gave you an avenue to become who you are, and then think about who you're influencing right now. There is no greater joy on the planet than to have somebody come back years later, look you up and say, because of what you said or because of what you did or because of the avenues you offered me, it changed my life, it changed my family's life, and I'll be forever in your debt. When you have multiple people doing that in your life, then you know that your worth is not in yourself, but your worth is what you can do for other people. Happy Thanksgiving. PK52, the Saturday Morning Meeting.